Either I live in fear or I don't. It's the way I live my life. I can't live in fear.
We are not by ourselves.
There was a clear path for Mark Lewis, and he made sure he stayed on it.
I personally got a lot of slack because they felt like our protests were really watered down. So, yeah, it's a lot of behind the scenes that goes with this stuff. Yeah, we want to make sure that the community is aware.
Weekly marches were planned out in meetings like this one. Lewis says they chose to march because during a rally, things could get out of hand.
And we're dealing with a lot of grieving hearts. So when you're dealing with a lot of grieving hearts, we don't need opportunists, people there to be angry and to throw things, and we tell them that up front.
Andrejs, one of those grieving hearts, is still, to this day, advocating for peace, even after major players who you see speaking at rallies across the country wanted to step in.
Maureen, I've always felt that I was an intelligent man, a man of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, because not only do I study my word, but I'm a prayer man. But I knew that anger and rage was something that Bob Bates and those at the sheriff's office do, not Mr. Harris.
I wouldn't want anybody to wake up and see what I saw this morning.
Even moments after his brother died, Andrejs spoke to us.
Can I speak?
Yeah.
Eyewitness said that when he went to the ground, when they tackled him, he went to the ground. He was literally on the ground when they shot him.
Yeah, bro! Stop! Oh, God! Oh, he shot me out of you. He shot me there.
His message, the same then as it is now, one of faith and justice.
So I didn't want it. I didn't want all the publicity to actually take any attention off of my brother had been shot by a 73-year-old reserve deputy that paid to play.
Both men saying they made a conscious decision to choose peace because a little under 100 years ago, Tulsa was anything but peaceful.
This is a part of our history here. If you live here, this is a part of our history, and it needs to be talked about.
When you talk about 1921, you got to talk about Tulsa, Oklahoma.
In 1921, 35 city blocks were destroyed, 600 people injured, another 300 killed during the Tulsa race riot. And what was once considered one of the most affluent African-American communities in the country wiped away.
Not only did people lose their homes and their livelihoods through the loss of their businesses, they lost their lives. And that was horrific.
Dr. Jocelyn Payne with the John Hope Franklin Center for Reconciliation says even though the riot lasted less than a day in 1921, its impact is still felt today.
The aftermath of the race riot is visible and probably visceral throughout this community.
Payne says insurance payments were never received. People fled Tulsa, families were left struggling. That's still happening. She says you can spot it in the rundown homes, the abandoned buildings, and the lesson that was passed down for generations: survive, don't thrive.
And I can understand that. I can understand why people want to just disrupt things because their life is disrupted and they feel like they're not heard.
Lewis says he met with people to make sure they knew someone was listening.
It gave them hope. You know, I mean, I think we can see now the tone of the community and all over Tulsa. They're feeling as if that my voice matters now.
Harris sticking to his message about faith and promising me one thing.
Maureen, we're at a time now in life, in this world, where things are about to change.
Change, starting with perception.
This is the perception we get on TV, is that we're all thugs walking around with our pants hanging. But I'm sitting here today with a suit on, bow tie, and a Bible.
And Lewis hoping a new lesson will be passed down.
You count. You sitting in your chair, you matter.
Mark Lewis has a path, and right now, it's just beginning. Maureen Wirtz, Tulsa's Channel 8. Everyone has an opinion about turnpikes, and why they're still charging us.
I think it's probably been paid for 100 times over, you know.
I first rode this in 1975. There was a toll on it then. It's 40-some years later. they need to get the toll off it.
Understanding that was the original agreement, and then when they do get one paid off, they build another turnpike elsewhere to keep charging for these.
The promise made in 1947. After the bonds issued to build the Turner Turnpike were paid off, it'd be free.
It's not a private road. It's an interstate, major road through Oklahoma. Need to pull the toll booth off it.
That old promise broken with voters' approval. 2 state questions passed in 1954, allowing the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority to use cross-funding.
Well, we look at the turnpike as a system of turnpikes.
Tim Gatz of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority says that cross-funding means the OTA can use money generated from other turnpikes to build new ones.
Well, those investments really are investments in our future, and they're necessary to make sure that we've got a solid transportation system to help us move forward.
It cost $38.5 million to build the Turner Turnpike in 1953. That's a fraction of what the turnpike has earned in tolls, around $2.4 billion since 2006. If we adjust those numbers for inflation, based on toll revenue alone, over the last 10 years, the Turner Turnpike would have been paid off 6 times over.
And our current debt level is just over $800 million.
Even though new projects are in the works and there's passionate pushback from people, we had to know. Can you say, though, that turnpikes are ever going to be free?
I think as long as there are critical needs out there on the transportation system that are going unmet, I think we're going to have a need to reinvest.
I don't really care for it, but it's our only option.
It's just 41 years, a little bit much.
Drivers have been paying for turnpikes for 6 decades now, and that's not stopping anytime soon. Maureen Wirtz, Tulsa's Channel 8.
Oklahoma wasn't doing anything.
Wait a minute, ma'am, I can't hear you.
And I just spilled my guts to this cop, finally feeling like somebody may listen to me.
Hello? Hello?
The static on a 911 call on June 19, 2007 wasn't the only communication problem Misty Tucker says she had with law enforcement.
I'm thinking about shot the face.
She says that day, her ex-boyfriend ran her off the road and threw a sledgehammer through the car window.
My face was just caved in. No cheekbone whatsoever.
But things didn't stop there, with the relationship reaching its boiling point on the night of July 13th, 2007.
And it just sounded like a little pop gun. And he jumped across the seat into the back of that Tahoe.
Misty won the fight for the gun and shot and killed her ex, Brian Joyner.
Just gently laid that gun in that seat, and I could hear sirens coming, just echoing through town. Sounded like hundreds of them.
In December of that year, Misty was charged with first-degree murder in McCurtain County, Oklahoma. She was facing life in prison or death by lethal injection.
You can't hire a good lawyer for less than tens of thousands of dollars for a murder case.
That's where Gretchen Mosley and Joe Robertson stepped in. The two work for the Oklahoma Indigent Defense System, or OIDS. They provide defense for people accused of crimes, but a 7% budget cut has them questioning if they could even defend clients like Misty.
You know, the thing that makes this different in a way is that the failure in the criminal justice system is not a failure you feel today.
We're not sure how long we'll be able to provide constitutionally adequate services with the budget that we have. That's where we are.
A poor defense can make it harder for victims' loved ones to find peace and easier for court cases to get thrown out.
We are providing a constitutionally sound defense for the people we represent. With these budget cuts, I'm not going to be able to do that.
Our caseload is increased even as our personnel has decreased over the years.
Police arrest 37-year-old woman, and I've still never got to tell my story.
In August of 2008, Misty's trial began. In 1 week, Mosley and Robertson showed the jury Misty's phone records, showing pages of phone calls to police, copies of protection orders she had filed, a warrant for her ex out of Arkansas, and proof that he was released on bond in Oklahoma just one day before she shot him.
I just thought, God, if this is what comes, at least my family don't have to worry about him. And he didn't take my life. I still won.
In 45 minutes of deliberation, a jury acquitted Misty.
My freedom today, and for funding stuff like the Oids Foundation, because without them, I wouldn't be free.
For Misty, her case was one where the system worked, giving her freedom and a second chance at life.
The last post I got from him, it says, "Hey, little bro, I'm so proud of you. You are truly my hero. Happy birthday. I love you, Eric." And then I said, "I love you too, champ. Keep God first." And then he said, "I'm on my way home now."
Is that another one, or is that it? That's it. Sweet, that's a nice gun, man. It's not a Ruger, though. It's a Luger. It's a Luger.
Oh, I shot him. I'm sorry. He shot it.
One shot is all it took to trigger the fall of a longtime sheriff and unravel the Tulsa County Sheriff's Office.
My belief is when you drop the pebble in the water, the ripple effect tends to go all the way out, and it's not a coincidence that we're right here in the middle, and this story is still going on, what, a year later?
It was April 2nd, 2015. Moments after Reserve Deputy Robert Bates shoots Eric Harris, deputies search his apartment and come up with nothing.
We ready to rock? So who wrote the search warrant?
I wrote the search warrant, but the Boyd and them went by and got the numbers.
You said you got a search warrant, search it. I'm giving you permission.
So what's his exact address?
And with his Bible on his dashboard and an old warrant in his hand, Andrejs Harris speaks to us for the first time.
Cussed him out, told him he wanted to see him in his office. Now it turned around and left. If you just tell the honest truth, aren't you free?
I can tell you that they were in a violent struggle with this guy.
Bits and pieces of information filtered out through Shannon Clark, the public information officer for the sheriff's office at the time.
There was a lot of things kept from me too. You have to remember there was like 3 or 4 different ball games going on.
But this game was only in the first quarter.
I was the fighter. He could start it, but I'd finish it. And you can ask about anybody.
8 days after the shooting, the sheriff's office backs up Bates, saying mistaking your taser for a gun is a real thing. The explanation, not good enough for the district attorney. Bates is charged with second-degree manslaughter.
Mr. Bates, do you want to say anything?
No. Because I have priorities in my life. And first is to my God.
18 days later, Sheriff Stanley Glantz speaks. Sticking with the original play, his office did nothing wrong.
Going to do anything he could, and he was going to change the public opinion any way he could to protect himself.
Mr. Bates is going to be on trial for a homicide, and a lot of the truth will come out there.
Days later, a 2009 report would blindside Glantz. The internal affairs investigation would highlight favoritism, falsification of records, and lack of training within the sheriff's office. The report focused on Robert Bates.
There was just an unwritten rule. There were certain people that you held accountable and certain people you didn't hold accountable.
Clark says Bates, who was a longtime friend and financial backer of Glantz, fell into one of those categories.
When you're an elected official in elected office, you're going to be loyal to those that help fund your position. If you're an average Joe, it's really hard to get a campaign finance.
Clark, who had been defending the sheriff up to that point, was iced out and later fired. Weekly protests, 6,000 plus signatures, and a grand jury investigation resulted in 2 misdemeanor charges and a recommendation that he be removed from office. Holding on to his Bible and the belief that his brother's death served a purpose.
The beginning and the ending is the exact same story.
Andrejs says he's not walking away from the game, but finishing it. Maureen Wirtz, Tulsa's Channel 8.